Dokkan's never without its trouble, and today we're going to talk about some of it. Here's a hot take that shouldn't be hot. Guard is becoming a boring mechanic. Something that I think is starting to grow in the community is this idea that these must-have defensive abilities are becoming stale. You see this with people beforehand, that guard and dodge are a little less interesting than being able to attack a bunch or being able to crit. For example, see a big number. You see a big number, you get dopamine. People like Truth love winning. They care about the fact that if the run is a win, they are having fun. Whereas obviously there is a discrepancy within the larger community, rather, that wants to be able to see these animations, see these characters do big unga bunga damage. I mean, think about it. What's one of the things you see the most when you see Truth do a showcase? Anybody? $5? It's that the JP friends list always has characters built offensively. Regardless of what you believe, what he believes, what I believe, people are going to do what they want with their accounts. It can be as, quote unquote, stupid, ridiculous, terrible, but it's someone else's game at the end of the day, and, we're just living here. So why the uptick exactly in dissension? Well, I think it has to do with the 9th anniversary shifting the metagame as far as fights go. We have finally gotten those long-form fights that we've been clamoring for, but our characters really can't do that at a larger scale. What that means is that characters that are new need these defensive mechanics at a default, or they are unrunnable. You still see some of the shells of old in characters like Frieza, who, while having a terrible team, is able to reach respectable defense numbers through pure stat gain during the turn. And the rest of the game is continuing to live under the pretense of, if you do not block, if you do not have about 60% damage reduction, if you do not simply dodge, you are a worthless character. Here we have Minato chiming in. It said they have a whole reset during year 7, and the first few releases of the year actually felt somewhat balanced. Then they released Vegeta and Trunks, and eventually got to the point where these super strong defensive mechanics were a necessity, even from turn 1. Yes, I think Vegeta and Trunks were a bit too good on release, and set a bad trend for the future of the game. Here we have another tweet about this saying, I generally think Red Zone is one of the worst defense in Dokkan at the moment, and it causes the player base to hyper-focus on a few things in a unit's kit: guard, dodge, damage reduction, when the game has so much more to offer, in my opinion. Unfortunately, the sickness starts and ends at the foundation of what Dokkan has been built on. Characters like Beast Gohan, Gogeta, Full Power Broly, and the Gammas are a result of otherwise lazy design decisions made by a dev company that never truly adapted to its position in the gacha world. You can always opt to age out units. It doesn't really matter, so long as you continue to provide the collectors with something to pivot into. I mentioned before that collection is not the appeal of gacha on a wider scale. Maybe the whales who spend thousands of dollars to rainbow these units are traditional collectors, but the greater player base is not going to be the type of person who gets all of these units imprinted in E7, rainbowed in Dokkan, 14-starred in Legends, or Eidolon 6 in Honkai Star Rail. The average person is playing this game for the more toned down, bare bones gameplay aspects and the sort of roguelike finish that gacha games have, because they can't pull every unit, so every account seems different. This leads us to the day's talking point of the truth tweet here, which is post 9th anniversary. These are all the same character. This is an issue, because if the characters' kits were more solidly made, this wouldn't be as big as a problem. You would have the marriage of Garesh's individuality and the people like Truth who just want strong characters as a foundation. Dokkan is a PvE game at its core. There shouldn't really be a moment where you're building a team and you think, well, I can't play with full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku because he has a standby, so that's not my standby character for this run because I can't run the Gammas, so I'm just going to run the Gammas instead of Super Saiyan 4. His individuality should shine through. I think a lot of the limits of the systems Dokkan has added are anti-PvE in an interesting way, because they don't want you to be able to do these strong things at the same time, which means they don't want to create harder content that complements having these units with varied and mixed kits. We're seeing that now as we approach August, which is the expected time for the domain redux, the look back at what domain is and how it has affected the game and what they plan to do with it going forward. A lot of people are suspecting that you will be able to overwrite domains that are active at the same time, or perhaps they found a way to make domains non-exclusive to one another. Maybe we'll be able to get a Transform Zamasu and a Broly domain up at the same time. Who knows? I think one of the biggest issues of the kit discourse is that not only does it create an environment where people are unexcited for units unless they have a single line of text saying dodge 60% damage reduction or guard all during all turns, it's become a poison that basically makes it impossible to get interested in a unit the moment you don't see one of these things line up in a specific way. A greater issue, and what this speaks to, is that Dokkan clearly, Team Akatsuki clearly values these mechanics in a weighted way. If a character has crits by itself, typically that means it is severely lacking in other areas unless it is a premier big celebration unit. So what happens is that if they happen to include crit on a character who's in a filler banner or just in one of those filler months where it's not a major celebration, they severely hamstring the unit because it says crit right here. It means they won't have dodge, they won't have guard, they won't have a high defense stack number, they won't have damage reduction. When is the last time that you saw Super Saiyan God Goku from the Saiyan Day celebration, I believe? When is the last time you looked at that unit and was like, oh, I'm going to transform here? The answer is you really don't. And even though they created a unique kit, they created a character who is a dodging, rainbow changing, plug and play, fun unit to just put on a team. And they said, here is a finisher. Here's a move that when you do it, you end the fight. And that makes a lot of sense in the grand scheme of the meta at the time, obviously. As these characters age, though, you start to see these less and less. When is the last time you transformed with God Goku? Probably, I mean, it has to be longer than like 8 months at this point, unless you were just doing it for fun and died after. This is why I think that what Dokkan needs isn't a new type of fight. What Dokkan probably needs is a hidden potential system that is, I guess, like almost sort of akin to a gear system. The reason people can play with whatever character is their favorite in new wave gacha is because gear systems have become the better farms. They simply are a better vessel for PvE when it comes to letting a person experience the game through the lens of their favorite character. There are, 6 characters to a team in Dokkan. Why not be able to play with whoever you want? Like, at some point, the kit that you bring to the fight is going to matter. The kit that you bring to the fight that is new is going to matter. It's going to Powercreep. It's not like a gear system or a hidden potential system or whatever, what have you, is going to beat a character just having more text that is valuable. But what it will do is alleviate some of the stress of a character like God Goku, who cannot transform anymore. He might as well not have a transformation anymore. And he might not as well not had this for a long time. Let's be honest. It's been useless. You don't see the animation. It's now wasted assets. Dokkan at a base needs a retooling. And I know people say, oh, Dokkan's on a game designed to be played for this and that amount of time. Dokkan's this, Dokkan's that. I don't care. Dokkan has a clear problem that is greater than just kits. It has a design philosophy flaw, and it won't be fixed by bosses. It will instead be fixed by expounding on the base that it has built and realizing that Summoner's Wars walked so E7, Genshin, and Honkai Star Rail could run. Peace.